All right, go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, so there was actually a little bit of, there's been a lot of news throughout the day, but I think one of the most prescient things in sort of trade deadline talk.
What does prescient mean?
Related.
Important?
Yeah. Okay. The Minnesota Vikings, they lost Christian Darrisaw over the weekend, and they just traded for Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson. Now, I'm not saying that there's necessarily an upgrade for Braxton Jones available on this trade deadline, but I do think the Vikings just showed you that you can make upgrades to your offensive line even at the trade deadline, even when it's not considered something that you can do.
What was the compensation they gave up?
It still is yet to be released, but it was draft pick compensation.
I don't believe Cam Robinson has graded very well recently for the Jags. Am I right about that?
He hasn't. I think it's functional left tackle play would be the Vikings pitch to you on that.
Yeah, I mean, they find themselves in a position where they think they can win. Yeah.
They were desperate. And, like, the Bears, while they didn't, like, Braxton Jones is now hurt, but I certainly think they could upgrade there. I think they could upgrade 4 out of the 5 spots. Don't you believe?
Yes, I do. But they seem to feel fairly confident that, you know, they've got that situation underhand.
Cam Robinson's in the final year of his deal, making $16.2 million this year.
Wow.
So he was pricey.
A week from today is the trade deadline, November 5th.
And I predicted over 1.5 deals, so.
From the Bears?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think both Herbert and Nate Davis are going to be traded, for sure. And I would think they'd add something.
You'd think. What else you got, Chuck?
So the big news today was Albert Breer saying that basically Ben Johnson was connected to the Bears. He was interested in that job. And it's been speculated that part of the reason he hasn't made the leap to head coach, or the reason he hasn't made that leap to head coach, is because he is waiting for that perfect opportunity to open up. I think we all thought that the Bears, if that position was vacant this previous offseason, is probably the closest thing you can get to a completely ideal situation. Do you think that this time around it is still the best job on the market if it were to open up?
Oh, yes, I would think so. You've got a
quarterback already.
You've got, a young wide receiver. You do have to make upgrades in different spots. You've got a defense that has played well now for a couple of years. I would think this would be a very desirable destination.
The question is, will it open up? And if it does open up, are they willing to pay the piper? Because he wanted a lot of money. Yeah. He's not going to be cheap, and anybody who has had the job will not be cheap either.
I mean, it should never be a hurdle for any NFL team,
of course not,
to have to clear. But with that said, can you envision a scenario where the Bears would pay a head coach $10 million a year?
He wanted more, reportedly. He wanted $15 million. Like, that's the rate right now.
Can you envision a scenario where they would pay,
especially a first-time head coach,
4 years, $60 million?
They should, but you're right. I'm skeptical of that. But it doesn't go against the cap. No. And like I've always said, Eddie Jackson cost you, what, $16 million last year, too? Yeah. So if you're paying him as an average safety, why your head coach is in charge of everything.
Yeah. It would not be a hurdle for me, but it's not my money.
To me, it's like the council thing, really. Like, you invest more in the head coach so that you really don't have to pay your roster all the big bucks, right? Like, isn't the thinking that if you pay your head coach a lot of money to be the best damn coach, to get the best staff you can,
no, I don't
probably don't have to pay your roster as much.
Well, no, I don't think you do both. Yeah, I think they're both unique ideas. You try to hire the best coach, and you try to put together the best roster with the resources you have.
I think there are no shortcuts, and if anything, that's the cheat code, because you can cheat on the salary for the coach. There's nothing that says you can't pay your coach a certain amount of money. So if Team A has a coach that's $3 million and unproven, and Team B has a coach that you know is going to be great, why wouldn't you pay for that advantage? It's a competitive advantage.
Yeah. What else, Chuck?
Last thing here, just put simply, the closed practice walkthrough this week. Is this a big deal, or is this not a big deal? Is this like a sign of there's some really bad vibes coming in, or is it just...
I don't know
wait
how
and
to
see.
read it.
I think everything's a big deal this week. I'm not saying that this move is a big deal, but everything they do this week for this game is a big deal because they must win. So as long as it results in a win, this is going to be based on what happens Sunday.
My guess would be it's partially they want to get the mental part of this thing highlighted, and they're dealing with injuries. So, but I don't know. I don't know.
Isn't the best thing to do is get back on the bike? Don't you need to get out there and play football?
I would think so, but they do things differently, obviously.
But whatever. Like again, win, and that's it's cool.
Yeah.